go back to your music since we're on there. Now, you did say you started taking piano lessons. That's how it started, right? So when you went back, I shouldn't say you went back, when you went to college, music was also in your life.
Absolutely.
So it never really stopped at any point. You always had it in your life since you begun.
It just transforms. Sometimes
Right.
it's on a stage in a musical, sometimes it's in a choir, sometimes it's in a jazz band, sometimes it's a background reggae person, sometimes it's a front jazz person. But once I dared to get on stage and perform, it just kind of kept going.
It took you.
It took me.
So during the millennium, you decided to come back home. Why did you decide to come back home at that particular time?
When I came home for the millennium, my first child was 11 months old. He celebrated his birthday here. And when I came home and I saw how much love and community and village there was, I had spent 1 year at home with him. And the transition from being a very public, performing, working part-time, student movementing kind of person to an at-home with a baby person had made an impact on my mental well-being. And it was a slightly isolating experience. I loved bonding with my child, and we bonded very well. But at the same time, when I came to Ethiopia and I was surrounded by the entire village, it was really helpful. It kind of helped me just reconnect with who, again, I was. Because sometimes in the process of mothering, you lose yourself a little bit. So it was really helpful to find myself again. We celebrated his birthday here, and during that time was when I actually was introduced to Jörg Feil, who's the German guitarist that I worked with for a considerable amount of years in Ethiopia. I was a common friend, Hindeke, who introduced us. She thought we would work well together. Good job, Hindeke. She did a good job, and we vibed really, really well. And during the millennium also, there was a lot of celebration. My friends were performing in the millennium the large showcases as well. And because I wanted to spend time with them, I was like, yeah, let me get in that background vocalist action. But Jörg and I started to do little shows on the side at like the different clubs that were around, at Gaslight, like Bateau Eve was there, Coffee House was there, Club Alizé was just about to open. And the audience's response was pretty amazing.
We loved you.
We loved them.
Really loved you. I mean, we still do.
Yeah,
but as the duo, it was a very nice.
It was a very good vibe, and the song selections, the interactive nature of the performances really worked well. So we kept going. We recorded live that December, right after the millennium, and decided, you know what, maybe we can keep going like this. And so I started to travel and spend many more months here. But at that, like a few years into that, it was like, man, I think this is who I need to be for now. This is who I need to be.
You stayed here.
Exactly.
So then after that, what projects did you get involved in before Yenya? Because Yenya was after that, right? About a year or two later.
It was about maybe 2.5, 3 years later. Was it 4? My sense of time is a little flexible these days. I have no idea what's going on. But the first thing that I did when I actually officially moved my entire family to Ethiopia was, including my husband and my second child who was born here, was Afro FM. That was the Afrotainment channel 105.3. I was part of the breakfast show crew from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. It was very early. It was very early show.
And it was a long one too.
It was a long and early show, but it was a very good, I loved it because it was again focused on Africa and Pan-African things, Pan-African music, Pan-African news, which was completely where I was happiest. And then the other thing that I did was work with the Ethiopian Writers Association. They were having their 50th anniversary, so I kind of volunteered my time and some of that logistics, which introduced me to a lot of the poets and writers that are still very good friends, helped me improve my Amharic.
There you go, always helps.
I left at 10, so I needed to get grounded in that as well. And then Yenya came around, I think maybe August that time, and around the same time I also started doing Balagaru Idol. They kind of started around the same-ish period of time. And Yenya was through a friend, Hirui Arafaini, who was like, you know what, you studied economics, you're in the cultural sector, this is the creative and the developmental thing combined. I think you'd be a good person for this. And it was through his recommendation that I got connected with the person who was here to set up the Girl Effect Ethiopia project through the Nike Foundation. So Thank you, Hirui. It was a very fun experience finding the talent, working with poets and producers and, deciding what are the things to talk about, working with focus groups around girls, about what girl empowerment means, what does the community actually feel about girl empowerment, and just doing that social, active, empowerment, girl-centered creative work was through that. So it was kind of that route.
Beautiful, and that was definitely your thing.
It was a very much right place, right time, right combination of skills that I really was thoroughly enjoying. I loved who I was working with. I loved what we were doing and why we were doing it. It was fun. It was like work that you were like, I get paid, nice.
And on top of that, right?
On top of that, so it was really, really fun. We made beautiful things and beautiful songs, and it was, radio drama. So it was, again, arts integration for social change, which arts integration is the way.
It definitely is. So you coached the girls from Yenya. Actually did more than coaching, correct?
I mean, it was, I was the creative director for the music section. And, the original 5 women, girl.
They're women now.
They're young women then, and they're grown women now. It was Rahel Gates, Uzaviva Girma, Demlam Haile Mikhael, Kia, Kasahun, and Jerry Kalamwork. And they're all very much big stars at this point, which is really great. And, we were very lucky. We had a lot of people auditioning, and they were amazing at both the acting and the singing. So we did, vocal coaching was one of them, working with the songwriters about what we're saying, how we're going to say it, like kind of really developing the concept stories around the songs. That was one of the things that I would do. Like, I wrote the script for Abed, this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and this guy's going to come in, and that's going to be the story. So I remember writing that, and it was working with Abraham Walde. And then after that, we had different groups of songwriters that came and were part of the team. Abagazu was the producer that we worked the most with. Later on, we also worked with Elias Melka for a song and Kamuzu for several songs as well. It was great to know them, great to work with them. It was really, really good. And just kind of picking genre, what kind of style of music, who features what, and doing both the coaching on the recording sessions and also for the live performances. But really, the storytelling was also where it was at. It was fun. It was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And that's how and then it evolved into television. So then we had to kind of navigate television kind of production with the new crew. And then I moved to the States. So I had to kind of segue my way out of that. But the radio drama was definitely my very favorite portion of it.
That was fun.
It was.
How were your 2 albums received?
The 2 albums. The first one was the live one, which is my comfort zone. I love live. It has a lot of energy with the audience being involved. It had a lot of laughter. And we sold that everywhere we went after that, which was great. The second one was the studio one that we did in, again, my sense of time is a little bit tricky, but I think it's about 8 years ago with Jorg. Again, everywhere we went, everywhere we performed, we would sell it, and whatever we had, we sold out. We weren't very business-oriented in our approach, so we kind of made a bunch of copies, like a couple thousand, like maybe 5,000, and we sold them. We did great at the concerts, but in terms of really pushing it further, with the marketing, with the music video production, we made one music video for it, which was Yakar Muso. And so the album itself, everybody who has it loves it, but we didn't push it too far and we didn't push it too wide, which was part of our nature. And it wasn't so much laziness as just not being very aggressive marketers and things like that. The live performance was where, again, I am happiest. So as the duet, we did a lot of performances. But the happiest place in terms of what we did was the live performing. So when we were here, we performed maybe about 3 times a week or so, and the house was always full. We did a lot of festivals here in the area as well, jazz festivals, and Acacia was happening at that time, which was great. We toured to Germany, Egypt, South Africa. And Spain, which was a really, really lovely experience as well. We had a jazz festival kind of, there was a competition through this thing called Casa Africa. Out of Spain, which was about bringing African arts to the festival circuit in the Canary Islands and above and beyond.
Once upon a time, long ago, some legendary Africans I know had a vision that was long and strong.
So the live part, the happiest place I am is when I'm on stage exchanging energy and vibrations with the audience. So that's where we were very strong, as opposed to more the studio recording. I'm like, all right, we do it because we must, but it was not really where my heart and my passion and my push was. So we loved the performance. We did a great time, and it was great. It was the performing and the audience love was fantastic.
That's lovely. Now, there was talk about a third album. And we heard this through the grapevine. Is this true?
Yes, it is.
How's it going? Is it coming?
It's coming. Is
it a live show? Is it a live recording? Or is
you know, this time around, I said to myself, get comfortable in that studio. And so it is a solo album. So it's really me and then other people that are working with me, whoever might be for the song. Different people for different things. I did a lot of work with Kenny, some things with Abagazu, and then I'm doing some things in the stateside as well. It started before the COVIDs, and then it paused because of the COVIDs. There was a certain degree of momentum that I was enjoying, and then everything literally shut down. And it just sucks your energy. So then it was kind of like, all right, let's focus on what we have to focus on, which was educating the kids at home, taking care of all of those things, teaching online and things like that. But studios were shut down. A lot of things were shut down. So at this point, I'm saying to myself, I think this is it. This is the year to get this one out of the way because now there's another idea that's brewing in my mind. So this is the year for that, for it to get out into the space, because there's also new projects that I'm already processing. Reggae album, children's music album, and a really jazzy one that I've been thinking about as well. So new projects are already being born as I'm waiting for this one to come through. But I think the next 6 months has been kind of the deadline for what this album has to offer. I've been with the songs for about 2 years now. 6 out of the 10 have already been done. So it's just about getting that last 4 out. And it will be a done deal.
You wrote everything?
I wrote a lot of it. There's maybe a few editorial things that had some friends involved themselves in, but I did write most of it.
You have a focus on social issues and female empowerment. Now, knowing how you grew up and what kind of a mother you have, it's very hard to really even ask you that question, how did you get into that? But for people that don't know your mom and you, if you could explain how you got into all of these, that space. Because it is in itself an empowering space, by the way.
It is. I grew up with a very empowering set of parents. Both my parents were very much, be all you can be about who I am, and they weren't very focused on what I ended up being, but more so be as good as you can be in whatever that you were doing. My mother, Dr. Tawach Bishau, was one of the first female public health officers in the country, studied at Gondar University. She had to argue her way into this institution where women weren't allowed to be public health officers. And she said, but why not? If we're capable, we're capable. And then they were like, okay, but if you fail, no other women will come through. And she was like, but why? If men fail, do all men?
I know, right?
not continue to be these things. So she was very clear about her rights. I think, again, her parents were very empowering, and her father was very much encouraging. Her and her sister, Desta Bishau, were the first women to graduate in Jimma from high school. So there's just this kind of like an agreement across the generations that you can do what you put your mind to, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Growing up in India, where women's issues are difficult to say the least.
Yes.
Where there was a culture of, if you're a widow, you might actually be, you might have to accompany your husband in the grave. A lot of girl children were missing, statistically speaking, because girl children would be killed as infants, or sometimes even be, they disappeared. A lot of girls disappeared because it was a liability to have a girl child. While I was in India, there were a couple of times when I had to defend myself very strongly because I was almost being kidnapped by taxi drivers and things like that. It was very, they were traumatizing things. And then we moved to Namibia, where again, because of the social economic things of a lot of now, unemployed and underemployed folks, there was a lot of just the hopelessness and depression that was happening, a lot of alcohol use, a lot of gender-based violence there as well. I feel like the first things that we attended as far as public rallies in Namibia was also around violence to girls and women. so this kind of understanding of how difficult things are. And in Ethiopia,
Being a woman.
there's a lot of things that challenge, there's early childhood marriage, there's female genital cutting, there's a lot of things that are physically painful to experience as a woman. To be all you can be, you have to pass through so many different barriers and layers. And so I think going to college at an all-women's college, which is one of the most feminist-oriented colleges as well, you just become kind of centered in this understanding that women's capacity is infinite. And so therefore, do it all, be all that you can be. And obviously also being centered around human rights, it's really about if you're human and there's human rights, we are all entitled to that. And there should not be any kind of qualifications on anything.
Right.
It could be disability issues, human rights for all. It could be gender issues, human rights for all. Children's issues, human rights for all. So I think my mother really focused us on human rights. And having moved around, you see the commonality in what we struggle with and the universality of some of these things. So it really just centers you on this idea of everybody deserves human rights, everybody deserves dignity, everybody deserves opportunity. And so there should be no question. And everybody deserves safety and security, and there should be no question. So what can we do to make that more possible for more people, no matter who they are? And girls' empowerment just so happened to be a way, my first job, Women for Women, working with post-conflict women. Women are the center of society, they're the focal point of where the first learning happens, the first just attachment, love, understanding of your world comes from your mother. And it's heartbreaking to see how we don't see this.
I know.
Just accept it and just go, women uplifted is the world uplifted. Girls uplifted is the economy uplifted. Statistically speaking, economically speaking, if you just spend a little bit more effort on making sure that girls could reach their full potential, you might never need aid in this continent and country. Right. And there's a lot of sound science behind why it's important to empower as many of your girl, children, and women as possible, because it really pays dividends by the exponential level. Not to say anything about men, but we did find when you supported women, they supported the community more. And
that's
when
the
you support
that's,
men,
that's
they
the
supported
thing.
themselves more. And again,
That's the
science.
thing.
Science shows us the empowerment of girls and women means the empowerment of the country and continent.
Just
world.
imagine if we decide not to have kids anymore.
Ooh, well, the end.
You know what I mean?
dramatic,
So
yeah.
it's kind of sad to know that it's these women, the women that actually bear the children, that actually end up attacking them.
Yeah.
So it's like this cycle that we need to break.
It's a very bizarre, self-harming,
But,
nobody benefits.
it's
Nobody
really sad.
benefits. We all suffer. We all lose from that. And again, a respectful society is just something that we should all strive for. A society that says, I want the best for you and I want the best for me, and we can make that work out well together. We can win-win this existence together, is a society that's better off. So it's always painful to see how much still there is to do around that.
Yeah. As a teaching artist at the Wolf Trap Foundation for the Performing Arts, can you tell us what a day at Works looks like for you?
It's fun.
Exactly. It sounds very exciting. So
Yeah,
I would like,
I mean, the best part was the training, where it was like a different, again, dancers and drama professionals and musicians all coming together to come up with ideas. But really what you do is you come into the classroom, you say, hello, children. And the children are like, who are you? And you go, I'm here to help with your class today. And then you've already had some conversations with the teachers to find out what they need to work on, what their difficulty challenge points are, so that you have a specific plan. So it's about a 10 to 11 week program where we meet in advance with the teachers, we talk about what their needs are in their classroom, we craft something that fits their particular, I would like to be better at teaching the vocabulary, I would like to be better at transitioning from one project to another, I'd like to be better at doing science through music. Whatever it is that the teacher wants, we talk to the teacher first, craft something for them, and then we make a work plan. And it's about 45 minutes of actually showing what that looks like, and then a debriefing with the teacher going, how did that go for you? What was helpful? What worked well? What didn't work well? So it's really about focusing on the teachers and the teacher aides that are there.
but do you work with the students
Absolutely.
in front of the
so
teachers?
what you're doing is you're doing it's kind of like this scaffolding where you do it first all the way through. The next time you come through, you go, oh, can you help me with this process? And you involve the teacher. And the third time you come through, you're like, all right, let's do it half and half. And then now you slowly try to transition it. By the time you leave the classroom, you're almost one of the students just watching the teacher do that work. So it's really about transferring whatever that skill is so that they become more confident through slowly and gradually scaffolding. And like, here's what it looks like. Let's work with it together. Now you do a little bit more. Now it's yours. So by the time you leave, they've been doing it and you're like, good job, team. And you leave feeling happy and proud of them.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Now we come to Balagaro Idol. Since you were one of the judges on Balagaro Idol, we'd like to know how that experience was.
There was Ethiopian Idol. I think there was a couple of different kinds of idol shows that had happened. Balagaro Idol was with Abraham Walde, and it was something that he'd been thinking of and building towards for some time. And then he moved from Atlanta, and he knew my brother Jorga, and then we started working, I think, with also the Yenya project. And so at that time, he kind of saw that I was doing basically like arts coaching, music coaching, and he then also saw that my face is very expressive and he found me entertaining. And he was like, you know, between your experience and the fact that you are doing this work with Yenya and I see that you have the capacity, I think you'd make a good addition. I was extremely nervous because I don't like judging. I don't like judging anyone. I judge myself very harshly. I'm like, I can't do that to other people. Yeah. And judging, I mean, it's a hard thing to put yourself in that position to be judged in the first place, with cameras and lights that is going to be like, you know, aired in front of millions. So I had a very difficult first couple of weeks where my stomach was in knots the entire time, but then slowly the transition of the mindset was, this is giving guidance. This is kind of saying, you know, if you do this, things could be better, and maybe what you might do is not this at all. So it's more about the guidance than it is so much about the judging. So I think once I accepted that kind of approach, it helped. And there were just fun things and funny things that happen. And I think sometimes what I find is, you know, they re-air some of it and people come, you know, they come back and they're, we missed you, we missed the laughter, we missed the, you know, I had a great time.
You were fun.
I was fun. I was fun. Once I relaxed, I was really, really like enjoying the experience. And it was really great to work with Abraham. And I think at that time we had Dagam as well, and Dagma Oyali, and we had Abraham Tesfaye, who also had done a lot of, you know, he's Yarid music and radio and things like that around arts, and Gash Seleshi, Gash Abarramulla. He was also there.
So it was a very eclectic group.
It was an eclectic group. I was the nice female, the nicer female who was nervous and laughing all the time. But it was a great experience. And then I think they started working around outside of Addis Ababa, and at that point I kind of continued doing my work here in Yenya. In the capital. But it was a really great 6 months. And to this day, a lot of people know me very much because of that experience. It made me more present because it was a weekly program. And, you know, I had to say hello to a lot more people on the street.
Right.
But it was a fun experience. And, you know, at the end, Dawit Tsege winning that round and seeing how well he's doing, very proud of what he has become and how amazing this entire thing is. And bringing people to the forefront. It's a great process.
Yeah, I think it's great because thinking of all the other idols that we see when you come to our country, it's a lot of the people that come on these shows don't have that educational background like the other countries do, and meaning voice coaches, singing lessons.
So you kind of have to actually like, this is this is like almost like a crash course for the masses kind of thing. And it's something that really needs to be considered because again,
there's a lot of talent.
There's a lot of talent. If you put a little bit of music education, arts education from the elementary ages onwards, you get such, again, a high payout. On the other side of things, there's very few institutions of higher learning that have to do with music and the arts. We need a lot more.
We do.
And just a lot more integration in the elementary through high school. It would make us better as a human.
Even as a human. Even with the regular subjects. We would have better students.
Absolutely. Because music, again, science, I love science. Music shows that a lot more of your brain is activated. Your science part of it, your creative part of it, your problem solving, your cooperation skills, and all those realms, when they map out what happens in music, your brain literally lights up. So this is, again, science-based. We encourage science in all of these decision-making processes.
So my last question and my last song is going to be from Mali, Two-Afreeqa Toure. Now, you've had an experience with our brother who happened to come here.
We actually had Salif Keita.
And a whole lot of people.
Yeah, I believe it was Salif Keita came, and then from South Africa, there was a beautiful South African, so the Soweto Youth Choir came, and I think it was, oh my goodness, I'm blanking out on the name of the woman that came with them. And then, it wasn't Yusundur, but it was, again, I'm blanking out. You're going to forgive me, but you're going to remember. I'm going to remember. But it was a very chaotic, process. Two-Afreeqa Toure, I had a chance to play with the Ethiopian National Theatre, but with Salif Keita and the crew, it was for the AU 50th, and the power did go out, and it was a very shocking thing to experience with all of the leaders of the world all together in that space. And it was, again, an amazing theatrical production that had happened prior to...
So wait, did I make a mistake? So Two-Afreeqa and Salif Keita weren't here together. It was a completely separate event. Yes.
And I don't, like, my mind is blanking, so forgive me, the music gods of Africa. But it was a Salif Keita, and with Salif Keita and his manager at the time, his name is Chris. We had worked in South Africa on a couple of things after that point, but it was a very just wonderful thing because they wanted to include Ethiopian artists and things like that. It was a little, again, it was hectic. Anything in that level of production is a huge production. But I got a chance to put in a few verses in the Africa kind of song that Salif Keita did. But with Two-Afreeqa Toure, he was here, I don't remember the year, but it was at the Ethiopian National Theatre that we did a performance, and I have a song called The Trans-Africa Highway, which is about the African unity, and a real, again, plan. It was an actual plan to have the Trans-Africa Highway crisscross the continent, because up to the independence of African countries, all of the roads were about extracting resources outside of the continent as opposed to interconnecting the different nations within the continent. So the Trans-Africa Highway song was created on African Liberation Day, May 25, some year 2000 and I don't know, 11, 12, 13, to really, again, remind us of an amazing concept that we never really fully achieved. And it's still being achieved, but it's taken longer than I think anticipated, and it really is again about, you know, the freedom of people to move from border to border without having to prove that they have land and a lot of money and this, that, the other to get visas across African countries. So the freedom of mobility, the free movement of people, because our cultures are so interwoven and interconnected, the way that, again, economies would be stronger if there was freer borders around the continent was one of the songs that we did with Two-Afreeqa Toure, which was very awesome. He was very fun to perform.
So that was planned way before the Inter-Africa Free Trade.
I think, yes.
It sounds like it.
Yes.
Because we're still currently having trouble with the free trade.
Oh, yes. I mean,
so it would be interesting to see everything actually come together.
It would be.
I mean, eventually it will, but we just have to wake up sooner.
Absolutely. Regional integration for the nations is the way to move forward.
It's
absolutely.
a must.
Absolutely.
Currently, we seem to be having issues all over Africa, which unfortunately includes us too in that problem.
And without peace,
so there's
nothing.
Nothing. So, any last words?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a wonderful pleasure to be here with you and to talk to you, and also great to share some of these experiences. Like you mentioned, I would probably want to end it by saying peace is where it's at. Particularly now working with children, what I've seen is how much it impacts our children and how they see what's possible for themselves and how they see the world. And we are transferring a lot to them, subconsciously, consciously, by what they see, the violence they see. It's something that they can inherit. So it's just it's an important thing for us to really be considerate about what we're transferring to our youth and our children, and how we take care of their potential and their peace of mind, because we want a healthy population that's living in peace for this nation to be all that it can be. So just for us adults to shape up and be better for our children is my last parting words for today.
Thank you. Beautiful parting words. Every Saturdays at 4 p.m. on Arts TV, your show Two-Afreeqa will be showing at 4 p.m. Do not miss it. Thank you.